Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to another edition of our evening talk, which has become so popular. And most of the people are eagerly awaiting for this evening talk. So we have been able to engage you at least 50% of the month. That is almost 15 to 20 talks in a month. And so much thank you, each one of you, for supporting us that enable us to bring you some outstanding programs. Before I introduce the Swamiji for this evening and Mr. Ramkumar will chairing the session. We are going to have an outstanding session, but briefly I'll take 1 or 2 minutes to tell you what's happening in MMA so that you have not mentioned by any mistake, you can at least note down in your diary. Before that, I also want to share with you, I think because of your unstinted support and also keep pushing us to do some outstanding thing. This year too, we have been declared as one of the outstanding management associations in India for the 11th time in a row. So I think all you made it possible. Thanks so much. And you all deserve a big clap for yourself. And thank you so much. Now coming to MMA programs, this Saturday 19th, we have a talk under the Leader Speak by the Ponds veterans, Change, Innovation and Disruption in My Company, a perspective on the change around at and the implication on us by Mr. Neeraj Chandra. He's a business advisor. We have 3 outstanding co-participants who will be talking and discussing. When it's Arvind Balaji, is the MD of Lucas TVS, and Irina Vittal, again, she's independent director of a number of companies, and Mr. Agarwal, Intuitive. So we got 3 outstanding speakers. Then on the 21st, we have a discussion on leadership by values. Again, we have the outstanding speaker, Ramesh Subramaniam, then Professor Ramakrishnan, an industry professional, and Mr. Sivaraman will be chairing this session. Then we have something to do with the consumers. It's happening on 22nd Tuesday. Santanajan will be talking what is the recent thing happening in consumer rights. So I think better to know your right during COVID time. Better to know your right so that you're not really taken for a ride. On 26th Saturday, we have again an interesting event, Leader Speak series, leading self, teams, and organizations for sustainable growth. My adventure and experiences. We have again outstanding speaker Candy Anand, CEO of Business Growth LLC, will be talking to us. Monday the 28th, we have again an outstanding woman leader talking to us. My journey from corporate leader to an entrepreneur. Zia Ajivai, she's a director of Aquashell Private Limited and former business and marketing head of Monsanto India and former Unilever. This is happening in September. I'll quickly tell you what's happening in October. Which not me. We have a number of events. On the 10th of October, we have the National Convention of IMA. I'll be sharing with you, sorry, not National Convention. National Convention happening on 21st, 22nd of this month, where the award is given to MMA. I'll share with you the link. You register yourself. And we have the IMA has lined up some outstanding speakers. I think it's good to listen to some of them. And it's all by invitation for all LMA members. In October 10th, we have the Syndication Innovation Award. This time it's happening on the national television, India Television. We are bringing the award function virtual for you to get some experience of fantastic viewing pleasure. Then on 7th of October, we have again an outstanding discussion on national education policy. No, sorry, on 7th, we are having a discussion on International Health Day, Mental Health Day, where we are going to discuss on the mindful workplace, where Professor Pratima Murthy, Professor Head of Department of Psychology from NIMANS, Vidyarthi Jha, Professor of IIM Calcutta, Organized Behavior, is going to be talking to us, and it will be moderated by Yanapadan Krishnamurthy. And again on the 12th, this is again a not to be missed event, National Education Policy. Is it a boon, bane, or a what? We have Dr. Varghese, Vice Chancellor of National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration. Professor Rishikesh is a professor from Ajit Premji University. Chitra Gurumati, former director of CBSE. Gayatri Deepak, again founder and director of Chetan Education. Mr. Ganesh will be moderating. This is what is happening during the week. I thought if you have any chance missed the inbox, please do log in. All other programs till December have been finalized. We put on the website. Please do watch and not to be missed because it's all your convenient time. You know, IPL is starting, so we have also kept our program 6 to 7:30 only, so that it doesn't really interfere. IPL starts at 7:30, so you can watch this and settle on for a good IPL matches. Okay. Now coming to this evening, Grandeur of Action, Mediocrity to Excellence. We're all eagerly looking forward to this event, and thanks to Ramkumar who chairing this session for introducing Harish. Through Harish, I got Swamiji. It's indeed we are indeed blessed to have your presence to talk on this very, very important subject. I'm quite sure Mr. Ramkumar will be introducing you to the subject. Before that, let me have the privilege of briefly introducing Swami Vinayji, and thereafter the format of the program is then Mr. Ramkumar will do the welcome and introduction, then Swamiji's address. Then, as usual, please send your question if you are in the Zoom through a chat box. If you're not in the Zoom, I request you to kindly share the question, what's coming in your screen. That we are also live on YouTube, live on Facebook, Twitter, and also MMA website, MMA webcast, and also MMA radio. So, if you have a question, please send it to us. As usual, we'll pass on your question to Swamiji to respond accordingly. Okay, and we also request you to raise your question what is relevant to the theme. Okay. Let me have the privilege. It's always a proud privilege for me to introduce Swamiji. Swami Vinayji is an established thinker, philosopher, self-management expert, has immersed himself in the study of research and practice of Vedanta in the age of 16. Over the last 30 years, he has been inspired people both in India and abroad to commit themselves to higher ideals and transform themselves to lead more purposeful and fulfilling life, which is very, very essential today during the COVID time. An avid athlete, because which is very rare. I've seen Swamiji is very rarely. I've seen a sportsman Swamiji, except a few. Very avid athlete, participates in marathons, besides a daily schedule of yoga and badminton. He has a passion for mountaineering, trekking, undertaking treks in famous Annapurna base camp, Everest base camp in Nepal. I don't know, I'm going to ask Swamiji when he's going to climb Mount Everest, Swamiji. Then Vinayji stands for the testimony to a dynamic living of higher values. He is one of the most knowledgeable and committed Vedanta exponent who is not just teaches and talks lectures, but truly lives by it. And Swamiji, it's indeed a pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Thank
to
you.
chair the session, we have our own Mr. L. Ramkumar. And Ramkumar, you all know him. He was my past president. We worked closely together. He is a well-wisher of MMA. Ramkumar is the chairman of the board of Shanti Gears Limited and also chairman board of the Creative Cycles Colombo. Besides being an advisor in few corporates, he's an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. You can see a number of his batchmates are there today with us. And besides being a BCom and ACWA qualification, he's the Laila College Alumni Association conferred on him the Business Leader of the Year award in the year 2018. And his interest includes cricket, classical music, bridge, and reading. Mr. Ramkumar was the president of Madras Management Association for the year 2018-19. As I mentioned, we worked together and he's one of the pillars of MMA, contributed significantly to the growth of MMA. Very warm welcome to Mr. Ramkumar. Now over to Mr. Ramkumar to introduce and welcome and introduction, please. Mr. Ramkumar.
Thank you, Vijay. Sri Vinayji, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it's a privilege for me to be part of this program and giving the introductory remarks. I think Vijay has done quite a bit of it. I'm not going to repeat all that he has said, but I must tell you a few things about MMA. Before I invite very warmly Sri Vinayji and also people from Wisdom Foundation and people from various other organizations who have come into this because of online, very warmly for this grand program. We have seen that there are a lot of things happening today. I mean, there's much news about the kind of uncertainty we are going through, and we don't know where to start. For all of us living today, I don't think we have seen anything like this in our lives. But then we all know that this too shall pass, and we need to fortify ourselves mentally in terms of overcoming this period. As somebody keeps saying, there are 3 periods: before COVID, after COVID, and during COVID. And we are in during COVID now. So during COVID, I think also there are a lot of things required for you to keep your sanity and also your balance. Now, one of the things I also wanted to talk about Madras Management Association is that the way they completely changed tack after this COVID situation and people cannot get together, congregate, etc., because we used to have all physical meetings, very few of online. It is a complete transformation. It's in fact one of the examples of how people could do it. I must compliment Group Captain Vijay Kumar. I'm sure all of you know from whatever organization you are, and his secretariat for this wonderful work. Because not only are we engaging ourselves only in the management subjects, but we are looking at holistically a manager. A manager, what all does a manager require? Today's talk is one such thing actually. It is not directly connected with any technique or anything else regarding management, but I think unless you have a sound mind, you can't really do anything at all. Similarly, there are quiz programs for students and young people in the morning. Then there is yoga being conducted online. And one of the important things is this whole thing has been turned on its head by Vijay and his team, and also the managing committee and the current president, we have more depth, more reach, and also we have access to speakers which are otherwise very difficult to get because they would be busy. So I think that's how we got Vinayji also. I must thank Harish Kumar, my friend and classmate, who's been very, I think, follower of wisdom. I wish I could attend more of your lectures. I have attended some of these, Vinayji. So in this context, I think Vinayji's lecture of grandeur of action, mediocrity to excellence is also very relevant. Today, all of us are quite lost. And I think many times when we are lost, we don't know what to do. We just do something. So as they say, when you start doing something, you get restless. And that has some reaction. And then you don't know how exactly to go about this. And Vinayji, with his dedication to converting the Vedic principles into very simple life living tools, these will give us the balance. I'm sure we are also seeing a lot of opportunities. Like I just now talked about MMA. MMA turned the whole thing. And then I think MMA members are getting much more rich knowledge and content than we would have got earlier, because we thought what best we can do. Maybe some other things we wanted to do physically, etc., awards and all that we are not able to do. But I think this has been the thing. Similarly, I'm sure there is always a silver lining. There is always a potential that needs to be tapped. We are really looking forward to you, Sri Vinayji, to tell us, how exactly we go about it. And I've understood that, you appeal to the youth, because today that is very much required for the youth. They are more restless. Some of us have gone through different eras, Maybe when we started school, we didn't even have a computer. Today, everybody starts with a mobile when they're born. So the whole digital era is making a lot of difference. So I won't stand between you and the audience. And we look forward to the enlightenment. And I'm sure at the end of it, all of us will be better off in terms of facing the crisis, as it were. Thank you very much. Over to you, Vinayji.
Hari Om, Namaskaram, good evening to everyone. Firstly, I'm indeed extremely honored to have this kind invitation from MMA, Group Captain Vijay Kumarji, Ram Kumarji. Thank you for the wonderful words of introduction. Lovely to see so many of you all joined on Zoom and on the other various platforms. I hope the message will resonate well with you all. Before I get on to the topic for the presentation today, I would firstly like to congratulate MMA for all the wonderful work it has been doing and the achievements it has received. It truly deserves it. I'm happy to be a part of this beautiful organization, and truly hope this could add color to the great work MMA has been doing. The topic we have chosen for the day is grandeur of action, moving from mediocrity to excellence. I have an hour or so to sail you through this topic. At the end of it, I believe there will be an opportunity to clarify any questions. But as and when you have something, please do throw them in through the various platforms you're on. If it's possible, I will be able to clarify then and there. Otherwise, we will take all of it, if not most of it, time permitting. Now, when you talk of the grandeur of action, we're talking of, obviously, you are interested in what the Shastras are saying. I always keep saying this, that I am just doing a very simple, humble act of delivering what has been laid down by the great Mahatmas. As simple an act like I'm just being a postman. I'm delivering the valuable contents which has been discovered and communicated. I'm bringing it to your doorsteps. I'm just presenting it to you as a mere matter of fact. So as much as possible, I take Vinay as a personality out of the entire equation. It is my job to do justice to what these great men have said, so that we didn't have a chance of hearing from the horse's mouth. At least let us hear from what they have said and laid down. Now, the very famous words of the scriptures in the context of it. Obviously, everything will be in the context of discussion. The very famous verse from the Ishavasya Upanishad. Kurvan neveha karma ani jiji vishe chatagu sama aha evam tvayinanyate to osti na karma lipyate nare Asuryana mate loka mandhe natamasavrataha. I wish I can just carry on chanting. If you have the capacity to connect and resonate with that truth, it's truly transformative. This is the second and the third mantra from the Ishavasya Upanishad. Now, what does the verse convey? What do the mantra convey? Kurvan neveha karmani jiji vishe chata gu samaha. The Shastra, the scriptures say, performing actions alone, here one should wish to live 100 years. Shata samaha. You should live 100 years, man. Action does not stain man. Na karma lipyate narehe. So when you perform actions of a certain cadre, they don't stain you. You don't commit a sin. So obviously when you bless someone to live 100 years, obviously they're talking about actions of an auspicious nature. You perform the best cadre of actions, actions which excel, the best, the highest, the greatest. So the Shastras tell us live a life of action for 100 years. Or the other category of people, Asuryana mate loka andhe natamasavrataha. If you don't fall to that category, or you'll be enveloped by blinding darkness and you will lead a life of sunless worlds. Look at that language. If you don't do that, you will fall. So you have a choice. You either live a full life, a grand life, a glorious life, an auspicious life full of action, or you live a life of mediocrity, a life of sin. You live a life of agitation, where you become a victim of situations and consequences, where you live a life engulfed in the sunless worlds. Wherever they use the word sun in the Shastras, they mean the wisdom. The sunless world refers to the ignorance. So either you're living, basking in the sun, in the glory of the Shastras, of the higher wisdom, or you are lost in the ignorance of your own self. And none of us are completely engulfed in darkness or now basking in the brilliance of the wisdom or the light. There's certain both in us, but to the extent you're ignorant, you're blissfully unaware. Mark my words, to the extent you're shrouded in ignorance, your actions, your life, you're unaware. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss, isn't it? As I'm talking to you now, I could be a carrier of COVID. I could be asymptomatic. I don't have any symptoms at all, but if I choose to go and get myself tested, I might be positive. There's a fair possibility, isn't it? But ignorance, blissfully unaware what's happening within me. That the mass of humanity are lost in ignorance. They don't know what's happening. They have not heeded to this great wisdom laid down by the masters. In fact, there's a verse in the Gita which spells it out. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtha parantapa. Evam parampara praptam. There was a tradition once upon a time where this knowledge was handed down through succession of the Guru Shishya Parampara, the preceptor disciple lineage. There was a tradition. This knowledge was preserved and handed down. Sakale namahata yogo nashtha parantapa. Arjuna, as time passed on, we have lost this tradition. says Lord Krishna in the Gita. If Krishna says we have lost this tradition, it is searching in the darkness. It's in wilderness. Nobody knows what it is. It's all lost. It's obscure. It's unknown. It's unheard.
Boring. Boring.
Can the sound be muted for everyone, please?
Shankar, can you please mute everyone? Sorry, Swamiji. Please go ahead.
No problem. Sorry.
Please mute everyone, and I request gentlemen, please mute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. So this tradition, what this tradition of parampara, what it brought is everybody had this knowledge. In fact, there's a beautiful concept. As we know, this knowledge was, every householder has this knowledge in the Vedic times. So if the guru, the head of the family, was a guru himself. So he was a rishi himself. You didn't have to go out in search of this wisdom. But as time passed on, that knowledge was, so the first stage, the Vedic stage, the knowledge were purview to the rishis. As time passed on, he says in the verse, Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu, the Raja Rishi had this knowledge. Who are the Raja Rishis? There's two beautiful Sanskrit words. Raja means royalty. Rishi means a man of renunciation. A rishi is a man of renunciation. But this knowledge was even accessible to men of grandeur. They lived a life of royalty, yet they lived a life of the highest standards of men of renunciation. So they were Raja Rishi. So men of action with wisdom. You can take it in the modern sense. You can talk about the corporate leaders, the entrepreneurs who are running the business enterprises, those people who are leaders of a nation, heads of departments. Here are thinkers, the global leaders. They were, imagine they all being Rajarishi. They're all active, dynamic, but completely guided with that inner wisdom, Rajarishi. But as time passed on, there was a fall. As Shakespeare says, what a fall was there, my countrymen, where you and I and all of us fell, and this knowledge was lost. Rajarishi became only a Raja. And who is a Raja? A Raja is one, the men of action who lack that wisdom. They don't have this wisdom. The Rishi concept, the Rishi element in the Raja is lost. It's the Raja. There are people who are running behind the worldly pursuits, want to acquire and aggrandize the world. They are just chasing the worldly pursuits without the higher values. So today we have come to the level where we are devoid of these values. We have lost this tradition. We have lost this wisdom which has been handed down and preserved. Alas, what a loss, what a loss. It's our loss. So it is our little effort to revive this great tradition. We are committed to that purpose, to spread this knowledge to all, because it is your birthright to know what the truth is, as much as is mine. Now, coming to the context of the grandeur of action, now I would like to appeal to all of you. Please think along with me. I'm just trying to build, I will try to build a thought in the little time I have, and everything will revolve around the concept of action. Now, the first and the most important aspect of truth, as I said, it's none of it is my opinion. It is a lot of scientific study and observation, and rationality backs it. You have an opportunity to clarify it later. And if opportunity presents, I shall clarify. But it has sound logic backing it. But the most important truth is a human being is a master of his destiny. You and I are a master. We are not a slave. There is no force out there that can challenge or dominate a human power. That is how a human being is created. As the saying goes, a human being is a master, a chef d'oeuvre of creation. The highest of all creatures, a human being, scores amongst all of them. And why? Because unlike other creatures, a human being is a master, truly a master. Nothing can overwhelm him, nothing can challenge him, nothing can dominate him. A human being is not bound. We are liberated. What gives us that freedom? There's something known as Purushartha. There's something called as free will. Every human has got the choice of action. You may say, sir, I don't think so. Please bear with me. Think along with me. The Shastras say that a human being has got the choice. You can choose either to evolve or to devolve. You can choose to be constructive or destructive. You can choose to be a saint or a sinner. You can choose to perform actions with mediocrity or with excellence. The choice is with you. If you don't have the freedom, you don't have a choice, the question doesn't arise of putting in any effort, isn't it? Let's leave it to fate. Let there be an external factor that decide and determine what my life decides and deserves. I don't decide. No, the Shastras say you are the master. Nothing out there determines and defines. You and you alone determine and define the course of action where you go. We must bear that in mind. Let's not surrender to anything external. It's all inward out. You're the master within. You conquer within. You conquer the world outside. Keep that in mind. You got to believe that. That's the truth. Now let's go closer into the concept of that action. Let's understand what makes an action grand or excellent. Action is the symbol of life. Where there is no action, there is no life. In fact, inaction is death. The Bhagavad-Gita spells it out. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit. None can remain inactive even for a moment. You choose to remain inactive, you shall pay the price. Inaction is death. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo he karmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhe na karmanaha. Right throughout, I'll keep falling back on the Shastras. This is the authority. I am not the authority. The Shastras are the authority. And they are saying, perform your obligatory action because action is superior to inaction. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhe na karmanaha. Even the maintenance of your body is not possible by inaction. So you have no choice but to live a life of action. Even if I want to keep my body in good repair, I need to be active. And just to keep myself bodily fit so that my body, which is a vehicle, which serves me in the long journey I've taken to realize myself, the body doesn't become a hindrance at any time. So I need to keep in good repair. Whether I go on a bicycle, whether I scale a mountain, whether I play a sport, I go for a walk, I do yoga, whatever be a mode of activity, it is just to keep your body in good repair so that your vehicle serves you in the journey, isn't it? Imagine you're taking a long journey and your vehicle breaks down. Oh my God. If you don't know how to handle it, you're in deep trouble, isn't it? Imagine your body becomes a nuisance to you in your journey. Tomorrow I want to sit and meditate. I can't sit my cross-legged. Actually, now I'm sitting in a Padmasana. I wouldn't move an inch for the next 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours because I've exercised my body to an extent it cooperates with me. Imagine as I'm talking, I have a backache, I have a shoulder ache, I have a neck ache, I have a this ache, I have a that ache. I can't concentrate on a simple talk like this. What am I going to do? A long journey wherever I'm embarking. So action is essential for everything. Now I shall sail through 6 salient aspects. I had to concise it. I had to package it, give so that you have a picture, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. Please believe me, this is just the tip. There's so much more to it, so much beyond it. You have to plunge into it to explore the depth or bowels of this literature, what they have to unfold. It's not something you can just grasp it in an hour's presentation. 6 aspects. First point, remember, your body cannot act on its own. Your body is just like a mere piece of wood or stone. There is no motion or activity on its own. So the body acts only when it's propelled to act. So something else must propel it, must compel it, must drive it into action. The body doesn't act by itself. Oh, is it? Oh my God. I didn't know that body doesn't act by itself. Oops. That means from morning to night, from every day, every time I'm doing something, There's something else that is telling me to do it? Very much. I've come here to talk to you. You have come wherever you are to listen to me. Your body by itself didn't come. There's something in you, something in the body other than the body which is constantly driving your body into act. There are two driving forces. One is called the manas, the mind, the buddhi, the intellect. Quickly, mind is nothing but your impulsive element. The mind consists of the various emotions, various feelings. You do things because you feel like doing, isn't it? You have a liking for something, you end up doing it. You have a desire to do certain things, you go and do it. That's the mind. And then there is the rational aspect, the buddhi, which acquires the wisdom. The buddhi or the wisdom is the rational element which thinks, which gives arguments, which reasons, which rationalizes with life, which makes the right choices. It is the intellect. So there are these two forces in a human, in a body, and the irony of it is these two forces are constantly in fight with each other. Constantly. It's like two enemies. The mind and intellect are on constant tug of war. You know, as kids, we all played tug of war, isn't it? Even we go with a family outing, you catch hold of a piece of rope and you want to play a tug of war. You have that childish spirit in us, isn't it? So the tug of war. So there is a constant war between the head and the heart, between the mind and intellect. And most of the time, it is your mind that wins the battle. If anybody comes and tells me, sir, I am a master of my mind. If anybody says that, my salutations to them, my prostrations to them. It's not easy. Not easy at all to claim to have mastered the mind. First I said body cannot act, something that drives you. So three possibilities. So your actions can either be driven just purely by the mind. Simple example to understand that: mind craves for sweets. Your intellect has no control for sweets. Intellect says don't eat it. Mind just shut up, man. What are you talking? There are lovely sweets in the house, and there's festive occasion, and there's every reason why I should enjoy. But yet you know you should not eat it, but yet mind says, chalo yaar, never mind. Go ahead. Sapadla. Nobody is watching me now. I can eat it because you like to eat sweets though. So you are a diabetic. Your mind likes it. Your intellect says no, you go and do it. Another example. You vent your emotion of anger or frustration at someone near or dear. You can't contain your own frustration or emotion, and you vent it, and you terribly, very dearly pay a price because it has ruptured a very dear relationship, because you have fallen a prey to your emotion. You couldn't handle that emotion. You've fallen a prey. So actions are driven on the mind. Secondly, actions driven by the intellect without the permission of the mind, without the participation of the mind. Mind doesn't like it, yet intellect says nothing doing, do it. Example, a person chooses to exercise religiously. Why? Because doctor has told him, if you don't exercise, I'm sorry, my dear, I can't do anything. You face the consequences because you already neglected your body this long, and you're on tablets, not just tablets, you're gone on insulin, and the insulin maximum dosage you're getting, and your body sugar is out of control. So you want to be in better shape. You want to live longer. Yes, doctor, start walking. How much? Minimum 1 hour. How frequently? Every day. Oh my God. So these are the standing instructions by the doctor. So you get up in the morning, you don't like to exercise, but yet intellect says, I have to live longer, I have to exercise. No choice. So intellect tells the mind strongly, do it. Mind doesn't like it, you end up doing it. Second action. The third action is where there is a beautiful integration of the head and the heart, where the mind loves to do something and intellect also understands it and says, chalo yaar, very good. There is a symphony. There is a beautiful alignment within. There is no tug of war anymore. There's an alignment within. I can only talk of something which I've been doing so dearly for the past 3 decades. As the day I got to this knowledge, I fell in love with it. Truly, this is my first and only love. I hope my wife is not listening to this. I'll be in deep trouble afterwards. My family is not listening to this. So I'm a normal person like any one of you all. I'm just trying to live a normal life and yet reach the highest truths. That's how I would differentiate myself. I'm one with you all in everything that you do, but I want to aspire the highest. I don't want to be content with a mere mediocre life. I want to reach that life of par excellence. And I would like to give a laddu to Vijay Kumarji, because he said, yeah, in the little introduction he spoke, he said, he asking me when I'm going to climb the Mount Everest. I never had that thought. He planted the thought of climbing Mount Everest. So I've only gone up to the base camp, but I have never thought of Everest. So thank you, sir, for inspiring me to consider the Mount Everest. So that's I want to reach the Everest of life, which is to reach the highest goal of human purpose, which is to realize oneself. That's my goal. I would want to differentiate myself, if at all, in that way. So you love something to do it, and yet your intellect also says, yes, my dear, what you're doing is the right thing to do. So there is a perfect integration where the head and heart blend. So the first element of action is your body doesn't act. What drives your body into action is either the mind or the intellect or a combination of both. First point. Moving on. Second aspect of action. Where does this action originate from? If all of us are acting right throughout our lives, we are leading an active life, to whatever extent, what is it drives us to action? What is the origin of action? There is something known as the vasana. All our actions originate from a vasana. It's a Sanskrit word. Vasana expresses as your own thoughts, and thoughts manifest as desires, and desires expresses as actions. And every human is born with a vasana. In fact, you're born because you have a vasana. You may not know it. Please know it now. Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Yeah, you have a vasana, therefore you're born. And if you ask me, sir, what is a vasana? Vasana is nothing but a certain particular inclination for something. You have a particular leaning, an aptitude or an urge to do something in particular. Like from childhood. Like I appreciate Ram Kumarji when Vijay Kumarji was mentioning about Ram Kumarji, he said Ram Kumarji has a liking for Carnatic music. Why you have a liking for Carnatic music? So do I have a very deep calling for Carnatic music. Why? Because I have a vasana for it. If I ask you, Ram Kumarji, why don't you enjoy rock music? Rock music? What is rock music? You know rock music? Yeah, I know, but why should I like it? No, I'm sorry. I'm nothing wrong with it, but I don't have a liking for it. I don't have a taste for it. Why? Because you have no vasana for it. As simple as that. So you can have a vasana for anything in particular. It could be music, it could be sport, it could be literature, it could be philosophy, it could be business, it could be management, it could be medicine, engineering, whatever it is. You have a vasana. So actions emanate from vasanas. Point 2. Third point. It is very, very important when we have all vasanas. In fact, what differentiates all of us is the different vasanas, isn't it? It is important for us to identify with our nature. You need to know what is your nature, what is your vasana, so that you are being, because you're being defined by your vasana, you're being defined by your nature. It is imperative, it is important you know what is your nature. Why? So that you can be true to your nature. I know my nature, therefore I'm just being true to my nature. I'm just doing what I'm designed to do. I'm born to do, isn't it? A nightingale sings, a glowworm glows. It's just doing its dharma. Everything in life is beautiful if you have this concept and look out the world. Everything in life has a unique nature, a unique dharma, and it is just being true to its dharma. It's true to its nature. Everything in life. So also a human being should be true to his nature, and you can only be true to your nature when you know what is your nature. And that is known as Swadharma. Swadharma, Swadharma, Swadharma. Swa means one's own. Dharma means nature. Para dharma, opposite to swa is para. Para means something which is alien to, which is not your nature. Imagine me getting into business. Let's say I'm born into a business community. In fact, I'm born into a business community as such. And let's say I had an opportunity to do business, study business management, and take up a business which was existed running from a certain from my ancestors. So let's say a business, my father, my grandfather. I'm just a example. Let's say they have been running a flourishing business. I'm only son. Let's say I take a business because everything is just set. It is just given on a platter. I only do. In fact, I also don't need qualification. I just study some business management and go and experiment my wisdom there, my understanding there, because everything is set in motion long time ago. Imagine me doing business is paradharma, because my nature is philosophy, Vedanta, this scriptural study. I want to study the Sanatana Dharma. This is my dharma. So there's a verse in the Gita which says, Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Can the person who is monitoring, can I request to make sure that there is no disturbance, please? All audio could be muted. Thank you.
Sorry, Swamiji.
No, thank you. So this verse in the Gita, in the 3rd chapter, he says, better is Swadharma, though without merit, he says. Even if you get into your Swadharma without merit, than Paradharma well discharged. Imagine, it is better I be a philosopher being unsuccessful than being successful in business which is not my dharma. Better to die in Swadharma, because Paradharma is fraught with fear. He says, you get into a field which doesn't belong to you, you are in big trouble. Because you can't be true to you, because you're not doing what you're meant for. Everything has a dharma. Like a bitter God, the dharma of bitter God is to be bitter. You'll never find any sweet bitter God, would you? Impossible. That is the dharma of bitter God. You'll never find bitter sugar. The dharma of sugar is its sweetness. The dharma of the cow is to serve, to give milk, wholesome milk. Everything in life has dharma. So also you have your dharma. So you got to first and foremost find out what is your dharma, what is your nature. And once you get into a dharma, a field which you are born for, once you get into that field, there is no more inner resistance. There is no more inner friction. You live a life doing something of great satisfaction, a life of great reward, because you're doing what you are meant to do. There is no inner friction, there's no resistance. It's just a joy, just doing what you're meant to do. No prefixes, no suffixes, no conditions in life. When I'm called upon to address you all, I'm just doing something I enjoy. I couldn't have asked for anything more. The fact that you're lending your ears is all extra, because I'm just doing what I love to do. I would do for a handful of you all. The fact that you've put in so much effort, you've invited, you've honored me by having to address you all is all extra. I've not asked for all this. I'm just doing something which I love to do, man. It's like telling a child to go and play. Chalo, enough studies, just go and play. Is it? Can I go and play? Yes, go and play for 2 hours, no problem. Put everything aside. You have studied the whole day. How much fun the child would have. Exactly, I feel that kind of exuberance and joy, because I'm just doing what my inner nature compels me to do. And I'm just being true to my nature. Do you also feel the same way day in and day out, doing something which you do? Are you really loving what you do? Are you into your field, which is your dharma, with your nature? If not, examine and find out. What is your nature? It is very, very important because you're spending your entire life in it. Don't do something which you do not love to do. You're not passionate about. That was the third. The fourth is, having entered the field, what should be the modus operandi? You entered, yes, sir. I'm glad early stage of my life, I could choose something which I loved to do. My family, my environment, my friends, everything permitted me to do something which I loved. Very good. But having entered, how are you operating in that field? What is the modus operandi once you enter the field? Now, it's important. Please understand action. Now, at every point, I'm building a thought. It's like building a castle. I'm just trying to come from the foundation. I'm building it. Please bear with me. Please think along with me. Please be alert so that you can take note of this very, very simple and yet pertinent points. So that the fourth point, okay, the first point I said, your body doesn't act. It is either driven by the mind, by the intellect, or a combination of mind and intellect. Second, I said everybody acts, that action stems from a vasana. That is an inherent inclination. Third, I said every being has a unique nature. So you too have a nature. Find out your nature so that you can be true to the nature. Fourth point, having entered a field which is your nature, how should you function? Or how should you operate? Then I'm saying action is neutral. Action is always neutral. Action is neither good nor bad. Action is neither virtuous nor vicious, nor righteous nor unrighteous. Action is neither good nor bad. Action is always neutral. So what makes an action good or bad is determined by the intention, by the attitude, by the motive that backs the action. Other day in a talk, I was mentioning of 5 examples. I will just quickly resort to those 5 examples just to convey. Here is an act where the other person lost his life. I wouldn't call killing. Other person lost his life. 5 examples can either go, you would call them as virtuous or vicious. 5 examples. The first is a patient dies in the hands of a doctor. While he is being operated, a patient dies in the hands of the doctor. Second example, a lady to protect her own modesty or self-defense, another person, the molester, dies in the hands of that innocent lady. Third example, a soldier goes into the war and kills. Fourth, a terrorist goes out doing what he intends to do. Considerable damage, loss of life. Fifth example, you find it in certain developed countries, you find in universities, you find people where these kids have access to weapons of destruction. They go into classrooms and universities, they start shooting their own colleagues and teachers and everyone they see. 5 acts of killing. If I were to ask you independently, is killing right? You would say, no, killing is wrong. But yet in more than one of the case in the 5 examples, killing is right. If a soldier comes back after winning the war for the country, he is rewarded. He's awarded. And he glorifies it that he has been awarded and rewarded for defending his nation. Yet what he has done, he's killed in the battlefield. So you can't say killing is wrong. An action is always neutral. Now, there are 3 types of actions determined by the motive. Now, as action, first is an action performed with a selfish motive. So I can be in this field, you can be in the right field, but you may function in a wrong way. So when you perform an action with a selfish motive, now what is a selfish motive? When you do an action to satisfy your own personal interest, You have a certain personal appetite. The motive is to grab and aggrandize as much as you can. So wherever you are, you use and abuse that position just to gratify your own personal interest. Those kinds of actions are known as non-yajna actions. Non-yajna. In these elements of non-yajna, there is no sacrificial element at all. You don't do any sacrifice for a cause beyond yourself. All you're thinking is, what can I get out of it for myself? What can I get out of it? Other day, this news fell in my ears, and perhaps this is the worst I've heard. I've heard pretty disturbing news over the years, but this was very, very disturbing. In a nutshell, a son goes to the mother and takes a thumb impression of her dead body. The mother died in the wee hours. He was informed. The moment he came to know his mother passed away, he quickly takes the stamp pad and the stamp paper and gets a thumb impression on a stamp paper. A blank stamp paper. A son to a mother. I can't think of anything worse than that, please. Perhaps there are many worse things, because Arjuna is asking in the Gita, am I to kill my own guru who taught me how to hold a bow and arrow from my early childhood? Are you joking, Krishna? What? You want me to shoot my own guru? Perhaps that is more graver, more distressful, more disturbing an act than this one. They may be. But when it came to me, just so shocked and hurt me. So when people look at opportunities, how they can benefit themselves, that act are acts of selfishness and self-centeredness. The Gita says, Bhunjate te tvagham papaha ye pachantyatma karanat. Those people who live and cook for themselves, atma karanat, they only eat sin and they don't live a life. You can get all what you can desire, but you are living a life of sin. Believe me, the Gita says it. Seal it. Don't think about it. Horace Greeley, he says, the darkest hour of your life is when you plan to get money without earning it. It's the darkest moment of your life, when you want to enjoy or gain something without working for it. A classic example is gambling. You want to gamble and you want to multiply your fortune without working for it? Or a piece of game or a dice or whatever you play, you want to make a fortune out of it? You may say, sir, so what? So what if I'm selfish? Sir, just think. No selfish man is wanted in the society. If you are a selfish person, nobody would want to be in your company. Would you want to be in a company of a person who is constantly asking, constantly demanding, constantly taking from you? Would you want to be in a company? Would you want to hire a person who becomes a liability to the organization, who is using and abusing the resources for himself? Would you want to hire such a person? Or you hired a person who can bring his talent and glorify the organization, take it to greater heights? What would you do? Obviously, you would say, sir, I want to have someone who can lift, rise the flame of the organization, grow to greater heights, not someone who abuses and kills the organization. Imagine each member of the organization are takers. Each one is using his position right from the top to the bottom to take whatever he or she can. What will happen to the organization? There will be no organization. Husband walks into home one day and he sees his wife hitting the child profusely, really beating him up. So, this is the everyday drama that goes into the house. But that day the mother was very serious. She said, hold on, what is happening? Why are you hitting that fellow? You might really hurt him. What's going on? He had to forcibly stop her. No, today you don't interfere. I have to teach this fellow a lesson, a life lesson. Otherwise, his fellow is not learning a lesson. Okay, calm down. What is happening? What's going on? I've told you this boy has this habit of stealing things. that pencil, that eraser, this thing he picks up, and then he keeps stealing from a young boy, 9-10-year-old fellow. Therefore, stealing things from classroom. Today he stole from the teacher's handbag. He put his hand in the handbag and picked up something and got, see, this is what he picked up from handbag. I somehow got to know this. To which he independently calls the boy later and says, "Beta, what is your problem? Tell me whatever you want. I will bring from office. Whatever you want, I'll bring from office. Tell me, best quality is available there." And he was a government servant. Whether you're a government servant or a private employee, or whether you're a manager or a managed, whether you are a CEO or a clerk or a manager or whatever you are, the moment you use that position to abuse for your own self-benefit, you will not do well to yourself. The moment you have that selfish attitude, you will find there is constant conflict and friction with the world. That's how life is. I don't know how is it, but the moment you have ego and egocentric desires, you have conflict with the world. These are the people who are constantly living their drives on incentives. They constantly want rewards. They want perks. They want accolades. They want recognition. They find themselves, they're never satisfied, never content in their life. All the time grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. It destroys everything. Huge multinationals, huge organizations have collapsed because of this primary attitude. And it is this attitude that makes your action very, very mediocre, very ordinary. It's your own attitude. In fact, interestingly, it is this very attitude makes your action very insecure and fearful. I'm not expanding on it. There's a lot to expand. Each words are very pregnant, but you got to understand and make sense of how this all fit in. The more you have, in fact, the famous words of Shakespeare, "Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown." Why? Because of you have acquired it, got it through selfish means, through destructive means. You're insecure. Now, the second attitude is to work with a spirit of service and sacrifice. When you have an unselfish motive, it is the same work you're doing, but when you have a spirit of service, you identify with a larger cause. And in the selfish, there is no element of sacrifice. In unselfish, it is all service and sacrifice. The same work you do, you are working with a spirit of yajna. You've got to learn these two words. Whether am I living with the spirit of yajna or non-yajna? This is the age-old ritual, the Vedic ritual of fire worship, but it is impregnated with philosophical significance. So you can live a life of yajna or non-yajna. Yajna was a community worship where everybody involved and participated, where each one brought what they could and everybody worshipped, but everybody benefited equally. That is the concept of yajna. But sadly, as Samuel Coleridge says, common cause is an uncommon degree. Common cause is an uncommon degree, is what the world calls wisdom. So if anybody is wise in your perspective, they are wise. And what is that wisdom? Where does it come from? Because they have lived, they have become symbols of service and sacrifice. And it is the obligation of a leader, of a corporate leader, to operate on the spirit of service and sacrifice, not merely to aggrandize. He should be a role model for everybody below him, to set the example, to live that life of service and sacrifice, and instill this spirit in the entire workforce. Empower each individual to recognize their talent and initiate him to serve it for a larger cause. Each one brings his talent into the organization. That's why they have a place in the organization, isn't it? You have a place because you have a talent, but are you using it to serve a larger cause, or are you abusing it for your own self-benefit? You figure that out. That makes it mediocre or par excellence. That makes an action mediocre or grand. It is for what you're doing it. The moment you liquidate your ego, you will find you are instantly in harmony with the world. In fact, you're loved by the world. You're wanted by the world because you have no ego. A child is loved because a child has no ego. Balavat. A spiritual man, you must become like a Rajarshi. I've said, it's not the work you do, it is the work with the higher values. Don't be a Raja. Don't run behind the aggrandizement of the world. You will acquire, but have the element of Rishi in you, the higher values. So instantly you will be loved, you will be accepted, you will be wanted everywhere because of your sacrificial nature. You will be accepted, you will excel. It instantly creates a synergy. It resonates. Your action resonates and aligns with everyone. It aligns everyone towards a common goal. It brings everybody together because everyone is thinking of that one common perspective. Not long ago in Chennai, when there was that huge natural disaster of the floods, didn't everybody pull in their resources to bring their city back to shape? To make it functional, to get back to normalcy? Nobody, everybody didn't sit in their homes and say, oh, it is a job of the government, let them do. We have been honest taxpayers, let them resolve, let them solve the problem. Let them get the city back into shape. Did they think that way? No. Each one got out into the streets, into the flooded streets and say, how can I bring my city back to where it is, back where it was rather? It can't be like this any longer. Instantly, everybody identified with a common cause, isn't it? Recently in Cochin, when there was a flight crash, the flight which ran off the runway and fell off the precipice and broke into pieces and was in flames, there was huge loss of life. It happened to the VRs. And the newspapers carried the article, how the community surrounding rushed in. They brought their own personal cars, took people to the hospitals, got their upholstery stained in blood. What not? To what extent they went and served people, strangers. But do you need a disaster or a calamity to bring in together? No. You need to rise to the grandeur of a human dignity. It is below human dignity to fall for something non-yajna, to live a selfish life. It's a human grandeur to rise. You're not working to compete with others. You need to have a competition, but you're working to bring the best out of yourself. You want to be a polished version of yourself. Like when I had to present these ideas, I'm just at the desk. I keep calling amongst the close people, they say, Guruji, are you sitting in your corner? Yes, I say, I'm in my corner. There's a small corner where I sit with my small study lamp, with my books, with my study material, and just working on it. The material is not new to me, but I'm just trying to knit all these ideas so that I can only serve you better. So I'm not trying to compete with anyone here. I'm not trying to impress you all. I'm just trying to serve you all. So what is my intention? So that this knowledge, which is not alien to me, not new to me, can resonate well with you all. That spirit of service and sacrifice. You're not trying to live at the cost of others, destroy others. You're living at the attitude of trying to enable others, ennoble others, to enrich others. That is the spirit of yajna. And you live that life, believe me, your life is truly enriching, truly rewarding. It brings in a beautiful synergy. You really excel. Lastly, the fourth point, selfish, unselfish. The third is when your actions are selfless. When you perform actions without a motive, without a desire, it gives you indeed the very highest. It gives you, it rewards you with the very highest goal a human can ever aspire, which is God realization, self-realization. Such actions are truly liberating, truly enlightening. But you can only reach there by marching your way out from selfish into unselfish and from unselfish into selfless. That ends the fourth point. Now this leads me to the next point. The fifth aspect of action is every action has two primary purposes. The two primary purposes or objectives of action is acquisition and enjoyment. Everything you do Everybody does whatever they do. They're only trying to acquire the world and enjoy what they've acquired. So it talks about the two primary motivations. It's like you want to acquire a home and you want to go in and live in the house and enjoy living in the house, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with it. And neither am I saying anything wrong with it, please. You want to acquire and you want to enjoy. You want to build a swimming pool, you want to enjoy swimming in the pool. Simple as that. You want to build a house, you want to enjoy your home. You build a tennis court, you want to go and enjoy the game of tennis. It's a part and parcel of life. Everybody is trying to acquire and enjoy. Now, acquisition talks of the material quotient. Enjoyment addresses the spiritual quotient. So every human being has got these two essential quotients, the material and the spiritual. So the material quotient talks about your success, how dynamic you are, how industrious you are. And the spiritual quotient addresses how harmonious, how peaceful, how happy, and how contented you are. And the interesting thing is, these two elements which constitute a primary objective of action are independent elements. It's not that they are directly proportional. In fact, they are not proportional at all. It's not that how much wealth you have would determine how contented and peaceful and happy you are. It's not so. Your experience will tell you that. I don't have to tell you. The more you have, the more you want, the more discontented you are, the greed drives you more, you think you have much less with you. It's not necessary the more you have, the more peaceful and happy you are. And that leads me to clarifying what this is. So there are three possibilities, three types of people in the world, as it were, you may think. Three classes of people. One class of people are very, very successful out there. Indeed, there are some who are really remarkably successful in their life. They shine, they've had extraordinary talent, and that took them to places, and they've indeed have amassed the wealth. They have the world. They're very, very successful. But in their own terms, they're not peaceful or contented or happy. They're very stressed out. They're very disturbed. This is one class of people. The second class of people are the very peaceful, very happy, very contented, but they're not productive. They're not industrious, they're not dynamic, but very, very peaceful and happy. Lovely fellows, lovely people. Their life is very, very peaceful. The third are the categories of people, very rare indeed, are those who are productive, successful, industrious, smart, dexterous, efficient, and yet peaceful, contented, happy, harmonious, balanced. So these are the three possibilities. Now, the Shastras say a Rajasic person, a Rajasic fellow is running around, busy, morning to night. His day starts first thing in the morning. He is ready to meet the world. He's running from morning to night, meeting back-to-back meetings, does this, does that. So he's very, very active. He's got the world, he's got the wealth, but as he has no peace. A classic example is Japan. Japan is such a small nation in the world. If you take up the global map, you will struggle to see what that collection of islands Japan is. It's a small dot, few dots put together is Japan. Compared to what is Canada, what is China, what is United States, or any other, or even India, Japan is very small. But yet, today, you would want to buy a watch. Oh, it's made in Japan. Wow, it has got quality. They've got substance. They've got technology, advancement. Their trains run at a speed of 500 kilometers an hour. That's technology for you. Japanese technology, efficiency. And yet, they are productive, they're prosperous, industrious. They have the highest suicide rate in the world. You know that? Japan has the highest suicide rate in the world. They are workaholics. Their average working hour is 18 to 20 hours. It is a norm to work 18, 20 hours. Today we will celebrate, we'll announce to the world, oh, I have been working for 16 hours. At a stretch in Japan, you will be dwarfed because everybody is working for 18, 20 hours. So they're working because of the work, they're industrious, but they are highest level of suicide. Now, there's no peace and happiness. Rajasic people. Tamasic people are very peaceful, lovely people. When you visit them, you would like to go back to their homes, to their cities, to their countries. So nice, so peaceful. But there is no peace, there are no proper roads, there's no proper facilities, there's no proper electricity, you can't plug in more than 2-3 equipments, there's nothing. The country is not that developed. And a country like Bhutan that comes to my name. Bhutan is called the, what is Bhutan? Huh? The highest happiness index in the world. Their country rules the top, the number one in the world. But you can't compare to the efficiency and technology and the dynamism of where is Japan? Where is Japan? Where is Bhutan? Oh, your poles apart. So humanity is languishing between Rajas and Tamas. So when you get agitated, you get off action. Why? Everybody celebrates. Thank God it's Friday. TGIF. Don't you celebrate? When you get into action, you are stressed, you lost your peace of mind. To get back peace of mind, you go back into Tamas. When you go into Tamas, you have lost your productivity, you want action. You go into action, you have lost your peace of mind. So humanity is languishing between Rajas and Tamas. Nobody ever realizes that there's a realm or a zone which I can rise and act at the level of Sattva. Nobody ever understands that there is something called as a Sattvic action, where I can just get into the true grandeur of action. Alas, humanity doesn't know it. They're just going around in cycles and circles. Whole life, generations are going by, nobody realizes it. And the Shastras say there is something called a Sattvic action. And you can get into that equation where you're able to maintain your rhythm of action, and yet your mind is balanced and poised. So how it works, your body is dynamic, your mind is calm, your intellect is inspired by a higher ideal. So the only way you get out of this cycle of Rajas and Tamas is by embracing Sattva. And Sattvic action is an action driven with the spirit of Yajna. So it is that Yajna that breaks this languishing, this vicious cycle of Rajas and Tamas. Rajas, Tamas, Tamas, Rajas. You're caught up there in that cycle. Hardly anybody gets out of it. You must learn to embrace and live what you're working for. Give yourself a cause, a purpose. You find action truly becomes divine. And once you are acting, you can fall back on your own conscience. There's some divine messenger within which constantly guides you in the right direction. Am I doing the right thing? Your conscience tells you. If you uphold your conscience, you're leading a life of Satyam. The moment you confront your conscience, you have committed a sin. You become a sinner. So when something insults you, then you're wrong. Remember this. But with something you're true to yourself, nothing to worry. Keep carrying on because you're true to yourself, and that lifts you. Not only you lifts you, it lifts everything and everyone around you. It takes you to a level beyond your imagination. So the huge potential, enormous potential when you work for a larger cause with the spirit of Yajna. This is the fifth aspect of trying to get out of Rajas and Tamas, get into Sattva, where you combine efficiency and peace. Quick examples could be, you see, I've mentioned about this Japanese technology, where you find you're traveling at 400, 500 kilometers an hour in these bullet trains, and yet you will not find even a ripple of, in your cup of coffee or a glass of water, there's no ripple in the glass of water. That is efficiency. Where you have dynamism and yet peace at the same breath. Now, lastly, what truly glorifies an action is to live a life of renunciation. Please don't misunderstand. The onus is on us to clarify that. The Shastras say you must live a life of renunciation. Karya mityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna Sangham tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko mataha. In the 18th chapter of the Gita, he says, what is sattvic renunciation? Sattvic renunciation, he says, one who performs his obligatory action. Whatever you ought to do, you do it relinquishing, renouncing your attachment and the fruit of your action. If you perform your duty, relinquishing the non-essentials, relinquishing attachment and your attachment and fruit, he says you are performing sattvic renunciation. You are living a life of renunciation. It is not renouncing something. It is renouncing the non-essentials. In fact, what they are saying is renounce the non-essentials, renounce the appendages, renounce the pettiness, and embrace the essentials. Embrace action in its true glory. So quick mention, what are those that you need to renounce? What is it that actually ruin your action? There are 6 points. Your wrong attitude. I've just mentioned of the attitude. You've got to renounce your selfish attitude to action. Point 1, renounce your egoistic notion. Kartrutva bhavana, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Renounce the ego. Renounce your attachment. Renounce your worries and anxieties. All the time you're worrying and worrying and worrying, or anxious is what to come. Isn't there a beautiful saying? Every saint had a past. Every sinner has a future. So why should you be worried of the past of the saint? Why should you be worried of the future of a sinner? So either you're worried in the past or the future. Just live in this present moment, man. Make the most of your life. Why are you going into the past, dead past or the unborn future? Live in the present. The 5th point, renounce the fruits of your action, as the verse said. The very famous words, another verse of the Gita, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Karmani eva dhikara. Your right is only with action, not with the fruits. Renounce the fruit, enjoy the action. Renounce the thought of winning the game and enjoy the game, man. I know you're playing the game to win the game, but while playing, don't think of winning or losing. Just play the game. You will certainly win the game. Don't get lost in the results. Just play the game. And lastly, that which spoils and destroys action are the complexities. Everybody feels oneself either superior or inferior to someone. It's hardly possible to think one who is free from complexes. I don't understand. Why should you have a complex? Why should you feel yourself superior or inferior? Everybody has a role to play, man. Just play a role. So renouncing the lower elements and by embracing the higher aspects of life, you will turn an action of mediocrity into excellence. My appeal is, don't settle for anything less. Dear friends, this in short gives you an insight into the grandeur of action. Right from the Vedic declarations to the Shastras, you must embrace this wisdom so that your life, your action truly becomes a symbol. You become a role model for others to follow. This in short is what and how you can make your action grand. All right. If you have any questions from the presentation, I'll be more than happy to take them from the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vinayji. I think it was refreshingly simple and refreshingly enlightening. Very rarely we find it simple. Because you
Thank
always
you.
have a doubt. Grandeur of action means some people say don't act all the time. Unless you have to act, at the same time there must be a balanced way of acting. And I like your opening statement saying if you don't act, you are dead, right? So I think you have enunciated the principles which are very essential for this. I mean, I personally noted down. I think it's very easy to relate. It is not some high funda stuff, which we can't. We keep hearing this all the time, but I think we don't have practiced it as much as we should do. And as you said, we understand that we have really put a lot of pressure on you to compress so much of things into a very simple concept. I must tell all the viewers that we are extremely delighted to say that we have 1,600 viewers across all the
Wow.
media. We really,
Wonderful.
Vinay,
Wonderful efforts.
proud for MMA. On behalf of MMA, I should thank you. There are a lot of questions. I will ask one question which has come on the chat box. Then I leave it to Vijay to take it forward. And he's our time controller, actually. He's been a little generous today because I think the talk was, so infectious, like, we wanted to keep on hearing. So I think here is first question, Mr. Manikandan. I saw the name. So Manikandan has asked a question. At times, mind is confused and heart is afraid, which in turn leads to mental and physical stress. How to overcome this kind of situations?
Manikandanji, a very pertinent question. In fact, when I made this point, I said that the mind and intellect are always a tug of war. And you also said heart is afraid. In fact, the anatomical heart is the philosophical mind. The anatomical head is the philosophical intellect. You must understand this comparison. So when you say heart, it is a philosophical mind. When you say it is the head, it is the philosophical intellect. So the heart and head, the mind and intellect are always in conflict. So the nature of the mind is indecisive. That is its very nature. Everybody's mind, your mind, my mind, anybody's mind. A mind has a nature of its own. You can't change its nature. It can only be governed or controlled or supervised by a healthy intellect. That's all you can do. You can't change the very nature of the mind. The mind wanders into the past and future. Mind develops attachments. Mind becomes indecisive. Mind becomes impulsive. Mind becomes erratic. A mind has no direction or dimension. So what gives it a direction or dimension is the intellect. What calms the mind is the intellect. So the intellect is weak. Therefore, you're not able to influence that wisdom onto the mind because we have been operating on the mind from early childhood. There is no education system or a methodology or a procedure which can help you to build or revitalize the existing intellect. So the intellect is dormant and dead. It has gone into a cold storage. So you need to bring it out and heat it up with this knowledge and wisdom. So it will wake up. When your intellect wakes up to this wisdom, it has enough clarity to make the right choices and give a clear direction for the mind to follow. I'll just give an example perhaps to convey what this means, all means. You can only say the mind is like a flow of thoughts. In fact, the mind is nothing but an indiscriminate flow of thoughts. There is no direction, as I've said. Imagine the river that is flowing. When the water collects itself from the rivulets and the trickles from the mountains and it flows down into the plains, the water has gathered momentum. There is a torrential flow. But that water, that river, is a blessing to mankind, isn't it? Wherever the river passes by, life thrives. But that very same river, when it breaks the banks and inundates the fields and homes, it destroys livelihood, isn't it? And life. So the river is the mind. The strong banks of the river is the intellect. When the mind or the river is kept in the strong banks of your intellect, you will be able to channelize it for your own betterment. But the moment it inundates your fields and homes, it destroys life and livelihood. Similarly, mind is a beautiful thing. I'm not demonizing the mind here. Mind is a beautiful thing. but you need to know how to nurture it, how to nourish it, how to mold it. And when you don't have the capacity, it creates tantrums. Like the mind is a child in you and the intellect is adult in you. When you don't know how to nurture or control or govern or direct the child, the same child can create a lot of issues. The same child can create a havoc in your life. So you must understand that it's the intellect or the wisdom that gives clarity to handle the mind and whatever it presents itself. All right, trust that clarifies. Manikantanji.
Vijay, you would like to?
Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji. Thought-provoking address and very, very inspiring comments have come. I got a number of questions from the YouTube viewers, Facebook, and I'll try and accommodate. Actually, we are supposed to finish at 7:30. Maybe with your permission, we'll extend by another 10 minutes because so many questions have come. Is it okay with you, Swamiji? Okay.
Sir, from what I am told, you are the controller. You tell me.
No, sir, Swamiji
I will go with your instructions. Whatever you say, sir.
We just follow you, Swamiji. The first question from a YouTube viewer is, he says, anger generates delusion. Delusion results in loss of memory. Failure of memory leads to loss of understanding or wisdom, and loss of this is discriminative intellectual spells ruins to a man. This is what Bhagavad-Gita says. He says in the present pandemic, how do you control all this? He should listen to you every day.
What is it? Does he have a name? Who is this asking this question?
This was the Raghuvanshi from Delhi. He says, he's quoted from Bhagavad-Gita, and he says, how do we control this in the present pandemic situation? Because there's too many things are involved in this, but I don't know, how can you make in a short answer?
Sorry, you said the name. What is his name?
Raghuvanshi.
Raghuvanshi. This is the famous ladder of fall, which is given in the 62nd and 63rd verse of chapter 2. Dhyayato vishayan pungsaha sanghasteshu bhajayate sanghat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati sammohaha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti vibhramshat buddhinashaha buddhinashat pranashati. This is exactly the verse he is saying. Now, when Lord Krishna gave this wisdom, there was no COVID, I think, at that time. So, whether COVID, like Ramji was saying, COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, it doesn't matter whether you are in COVID, whether you're conquered COVID or not. It is not, the challenge is not external, my dear. The entire challenge is internal. In fact, in the 3rd chapter, Arjuna asked this question, Athakena parayuktoyam papam charati purushaha. What is that force within me that compels me to commit a sin against my own wish? I know I'm committing a sin, but what is that force within me? Krishna says, Kamayesha, Krodhayesha, Rajoguna samudbhavaha, Mahashanaha, Mahapapma, Vidhye, Namiha Vairinam. He says, it is your own desire, it is your own anger. It is all devouring, it is all sinful. So it is not easy, but the wisdom is there. There's enough wisdom out there to give you strength to handle it. It's just that the times are presenting itself, and what you have realized is how ill-prepared you are to face life. So situation has only made you turn inward. You've become more introspective because you have that little time at your end and you realize, oh no, I'm not able to handle what life has thrown at me. So Vedanta, all these scriptures, all the Sanatana Dharma, all this wisdom is a branch of knowledge. It's a preparation to life. It prepares you to face life. That's about all. So sooner or later, if you embark on this wisdom, resurrect your intellect, give yourself that clarity of thought, you will be able to keep your emotions at bay. You should be able to conquer yourself and give yourself a proper direction, creating harmony within and harmony without.
Thank you, Swamiji. Here's a question from one of our radio listener from Voice of MMA Radio. He wants to know, what is the essential ingredients for a successful life? What is the one thing that can bestow upon us professional excellence and good health? How you can focus on this?
As I have said, I would appeal to you to consider all these elements. But if you ask me one thing, is whether you are a master or slave of your own personality. If you are a master of your own mind, you will be able to conquer the world. The famous words of Swami Vivekananda, he said, conquer your mind, you have conquered the world. So it all begins within. And if you keep in mind, take into account all that input you got, build and give yourself a proper direction, you will be able to do good. All right?
Vijay, there is one interesting question.
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
If you don't mind. Anup Mathur is asking, how should we react or feel when you perform unselfish action, but you realize that you are being taken advantage of?
I hope I have not portrayed, Anupji, that being unselfish is not being unintelligent. I never said being selfish is being intelligent and being unselfish is being unintelligent. In fact, many people carry this or have an image or portray this conception that just being good or being good doesn't pay off these days. Therefore, you have to have your certain manipulative ways and means to get things done. And they say, what happened to Yudhishthira? In the famous Mahabharata, Yudhishthira is known as Dharmaraja. Means he was the king of righteousness. Yet he fell a prey to the manipulative, unscrupulous attitude of his own cousin Duryodhana. Anupji, you need to understand that a human being falls into two primary classifications known as the aggressive and the passive. A passive person is predominantly operating on the mind, and aggressive is predominantly operating on the intellect. And intellect is you can use your intellect to manipulate things. You use to plan, scheme, maneuver. So Duryodhana was an aggressive, bad person. Yudhishthira was a passive, good person. Remember, the aggressiveness rules passivity at all times. So if you want to handle aggressive, bad, you must go one notch higher. You must be on the same plateau, same platform, but you must be aggressive good. So only a man of aggressive goodness can handle aggressive badness. So if you have fallen a victim of your kindness and generosity, it is not because of the kindness and generosity, because you did not know how to express that kindness and generosity. A simple example is, you may say, sir, I am a good driver. I have driven and followed all the rules and regulations, but I have met with a fatal accident because somebody has driven rashly. A good driver is one who looks on for bad drivers. Is not driving correctly, but there are people out there who drive rashly. You must be alert to pick them up as well and deal with them. So you don't become a victim. So unselfishness does not mean you become a victim of others' actions and people take advantage. It is not being passive good. The world only knows passive good because they don't operate on intellect. The moment you rise from the mind to the intellect, you will transform yourself from being a Yudhishthira to Lord Krishna. So don't just be good. You've got to be aggressive good. So you use the intellect to advance the good of the society and the larger cause. Don't use your intellect to manipulate others. Like just before the talk, I got a news from someone was saying, as someone near in the larger extended family, they came and told me that, in fact, this morning, that, that person died. He passed away. I said, oh, very sorry to hear. What happened? Oh, he was hospitalized for 10 days for COVID. And it's no more. Oh, is it? And then they said they gave a bill of 18 lakhs, and at 2:30 in the morning they called and said, he's no more. Settle the bill, collect the body. So in a pandemic situation, I'm not passing judgments, I'm not passing remarks. We are grateful to the industry, the medical industry, which is struggling to cope with the situation, and the industry trying to find a solution to the problem. It needs all the aggressive goodness to find and revive what humanity is going through and being challenged with, isn't it? But if I use the very same opportunity to abuse and make enough riches for myself at the cost of the innocent masses, that is aggressive bad. The same situation can be abused for your own purpose. The same situation, all the industry, the medical industry can come together, work to find a solution and uplift, relieve humanity from what it's going through. The entire human race is being challenged with it. I'm not talking of regions or countries here. So what humanity needs is an aggressive goodness. You need to have the noble thought, but with a very smart, skillful, wise clarity. So don't mistake that goodness doesn't pay. Goodness pays, but what one pays a price for is passivity. But if you are aggressive like Krishna, you will be a true leader, you will be a true master, which is what is the true grandeur of action. So grandeur of action is, thanks to the question, it helped me brought out this aspect of what is aggressive goodness. Once you're aggressive good, by Jove, you become a beacon of life for humanity to follow. Generations will look up to you. All right.
Now we'll take two last questions. Here's a question from Srikala.
Vijay Kumarji, you have been very generous and gracious. You said 10 minutes, you're going beyond your given time.
Sir, I think the situation demands that. I thought I must leave it to the people to really.
By all means. Much appreciated.
Sir, many people have a staunch belief that their life is governed by destiny. They provide various arguments to support their destiny. Sir, am I correct? My success or failure is my destiny?
In one of my... Who is the questioner, sir? Sorry?
Srikala is a management professional, sir. Is a member of MMA.
Srikala.
And
Srikala, in fact, this is one of the opening remarks of the statement I said during the talk. I said, we have to come to terms. I knew I would get this concern because there is an opinion or school of thought which says that everything in life or certain elements of life is predetermined or predefined. In fact, if you were to say so that everything is predetermined or predefined, for example, I am born as a male, you're born as a female, that is your destiny, you're born with. That is predetermined. But you're born with certain vasanas, I'm born with certain vasanas. Yes, that is predetermined. But what I do with it, I have what is known as a choice of action, which is the purushartha. See, there is another faculty which gives a human an excellence from other living beings. Everything in life of an animal is predetermined. Like a herbivore will remain a herbivore. It can never become a carnivore. A carnivore will die as a carnivore. If it is deprived of prey, it will not say, oh, there's plenty of vegetation, just one meal. No, let me have little vegetation and still fill my stomach. No, a carnivore will never do that. It will wait for a prey, but it will never change its nature. That is predetermined, predefined. But a human being can be the worst of carnivores or the best of herbivores. We have what is known as a choice of action. So it is right to say that a human being is defined in certain elements, but if you can't take that at large and say everything in life of a human is predefined or predetermined. In fact, it is right to say a human has the choice to choose, and it is the intellect that gives the freedom to choose whatever he wants. Okay.
I put two questions together, the last two questions. One from Mr. Rangarao. You want to know what is Nasyati and Pranasyati. I don't know, I hope I pronounce it correctly. Please elaborate. The second question is, Swamiji, how do you overcome the challenge of living, working in a workplace where the spiritual principles are not valued or practiced?
Nashyati, pranashyati. Nashyati is loss. Pranashyati is supreme loss, great loss. Mahati vinashti is supremely great loss. One more word adding to it. Rangarao Garu. So I hope you would not want to go through any of them. All what we're talking of is gaining. You're not talking of losing anything. All right. And the second question is, when you are in an environment where there are no values, how do you lead? How do you carry on? Is that the question, Ji?
Rakarao, we are there. Would like to. That's the question.
I think Vijay is asking about the second one.
The second question is, how do you overcome the challenge of living, working in a workplace where the spiritual principles are not valued or practiced?
More so you set the trend. Don't live a life of herd instinct, please. It is an animalistic tendency to live of herd instinct, to follow what others do. A leader sets the tone for others to follow. So bring out that leadership capability in you. Bring out that capacity of that grandeur in you so that you become leader so others can follow you. Yadyada charati shreshtaha tat tat eva itara janaha sayak pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. Whatever a leader does, others follow. Just don't ape others. Don't expect others to set the standards. You set the standards so that you become a role model for others to follow. And you can be a clerk in an organization. How does it matter? Don't you have a standard? Don't you have a place? Don't you have a role to play? Just play your role. Be true to your conscience. Believe me, you will be respected. You will be noted. You will be followed. You are a true leader when you don't follow others, but you set the tone for others to follow. I hope that message resonates well with you all. All right.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think there come number of questions have come, and as you know, thank you for extending the time. And as a token of our appreciation on behalf of the chairman, Mr. Ramkumar, we would like to present you a memento on your behalf. May I have the slide, please? On your behalf, Swamiji, we are giving 100 face masks to the people who are in need, because this is a thought we must give to the people so that the right time, and it will be appreciated. And thank you for agreeing to our thing. We'll be presenting on your behalf. We're working with a number of NGOs, which we go and give it to them, hand over personally by the MMA secretarial staff, and also other things. And thank you so much for accepting. And now I request to Mr. Ramkumar to give concluding remarks. As Mr. Ramkumar mentioned, we have over 1,650 viewers. So you can imagine I flooded with so many questions. But we try and ask the questions which are really relevant, because most of them you covered in your address, and it's been very inspiring. Over to Mr. Ramkumar for his concluding remarks.
Captain and Ram,
Harish, yeah.
just before you end, I wanted a little time, half a minute, to display what are the standard classes that we have of in Wisdom Foundation, so that any of your members or people watching, if they are interested, to pursue and if the message has resonated with them, then if they want to proceed further, they can come and attend our classes. So I would beg your indulgence at the end of what you say to be able to display them.
Thank you, Mr. Harish. After Mr. Ramkumar's concluding remarks, Mr. Shankar, can you please show the slides as soon as the concluding remarks are there, so that people can immensely benefit if they would like to take it forward?
Yeah, I think it's been a very interesting and invigorating 1.5 hours or whatever. We didn't see the time at all, and we could have gone on for another half an hour to 1 hour. I think there are many more questions. Swamiji, as I said, what we have taking home from this is that we need to aim higher. I think we need to look at the potential. Each of us have got a potential. Each of us is unique. And I think if we pursue that, there is no end to that at all. I think, as you said, whether it is COVID or no COVID, I think it takes us into a different league. And I personally benefited a lot from this in terms of whatever you have said. And I look forward to listening to you and attending your sessions more, as egged by my friend Harish Kumar. Off and on, I've not been able to do justice. Once again, I thank you on behalf of MMA and all the US for this wonderful talk. And I think you made it really easy for us to absorb this, rather than quoting very high funda philosophies. Thank you once again, and over to Harish Kumar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramkumar. Thank you very much, Group Captain. And Guruji, with your permission, can I request you, Shrikant, again to play that slide again? Well, we have two classes, which are, no, from the first one, please. Hari Om.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the second one, please. Yeah, so we have two classes. One is a Bhagavad-Gita class. Presently, we are on chapter 5. That's every Sunday. This is a class in India. Then there's the Atma Bodha class, which begins this next Wednesday at 6 p.m. We also have a Bhagavad-Gita class every Saturday. This is designed for the Malaysian audiences, Malaysia, Singapore, that region. And this is again something where why we're giving this is some of us may have friends and family in that part of the world, and we might like to suggest to them that if they are interested, they could participate. However, anybody is free to participate in any of the channels, depending on their convenience. Can I have the next one, please? We have a very special program for the audiences in North America, which is a lecture which is on Sunday evenings their time. Previous slide, please. And the Sunday evening in the US, which is Monday early morning in India. Again, it's an invigorating time. It's 5:30 in the morning. Those of us in India who want to listen to it, this is a glorious opportunity to listen to the essence of removing illusions, which is what the famous Adi Shankara text Bhaja Govindam is. So at 5:30 should be done by 7 in the morning, and then the rest of the day is there for you to do whatever you like. However, if you have friends and family in the US or in Canada, you could please share with them this information. We have just finished a very invigorating 5-lecture series on Eternal Wisdom, a Manual to Life. And this was the essence of all the scriptures in a 5-lecture series designed to tell people how to live life. Right? It was very well received, and but there will be more opportunities. The next is Bhaja Govindam. We urge you all, anyone who is interested or who haven't. I've heard Bhaja Govindam personally many times with Guruji, with his incisiveness and his extreme interactiveness, takes it to another level. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Next slide, please. For any details, this is it. And if any of you have missed any of this information, please feel free to write to Group Captain or message Group Captain. He will forward it to us. Right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harish Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Ram Kumar, for connecting us to Mr. Harish Kumar. It's been a fascinating evening. And I think during the difficult times, what input Swamiji gave is an outstanding insight for us. And I urge upon all the members who missed tracking the slides, what will be shown by Harish Kumar ji. Please log on to Wisdom Foundation, their site. You will get all the information what you need them. And I think it's really worth trying it once in a while on a Sunday. If you don't play golf, sure, try this. It's really worth it, actually. Thank you, Mr. Ram Kumar, taking time off to you with us and to chair the session. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Swamiji. It's indeed, we are indeed blessed and honored to host you. And I'm quite sure our members really thoroughly enjoyed as much as you enjoyed talking to our members. Thank you so much. And all the members who have joined us through our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also live webcast and our MMA radio. Thank you so much. You are the people who, in fact, you are the adrenaline which pump us to bring you some outstanding programs for you. Thank you so much, and stay healthy, and keep watching MMA program, and keep watching the program what today is said by Mr. Harish Kumar ji. Thank you so much. Good night. Until we meet again. Bye bye, and take care and stay safe. Bye bye. Thank you, Harish Kumar ji, and bye bye.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
All is grace.